Hi everybody, my name is Luke and I'm the Deputy President of TU Dublin SU in Blanchardstown. This series is to encourage students to run for elections and bridge that political gap between student and wider kind of politics. Throughout the series, we'll be joined by some multiple progressive community leaders and exploring topics such as minority groups in leadership, why bother running, and learning a little bit about our guests each session. Today, I am joined by a very familiar face, your current Welfare and Equality Officer for the Blanchardstown campus, Spud or Pádraic, whichever he decides to be called, and Spud/Pádraic. For the benefit of our students watching today, would you tell us a bit about yourself? So kind of along the lines of who you are, what you do, and what do you want us to call you?
Okay, so very good question straight off the bat. So yeah, as you said, my name is Pádraic Keane, or as most people just call me Spud, so I guess you could just keep referring to me as Spud. It's easier to keep it that way. Yeah, I'm the Vice President for Welfare and Equality on the Blanchardstown campus. It's a very interesting role. It's hard to pinpoint down exactly just what I do. Main focus though is making sure that all of our students' well-being is okay. Especially this year, it's been difficult, but I'd like to think I'm doing an okay job. It is a tough one, but it's getting there. So kind of main focuses would be kind of mental health. We do a lot on kind of sexual health, drug use. A big one this year that I tackled was the period poverty piece, which is a big one as well. Something on our campus, and there's some pretty cool updates that I can talk about later. But yeah, it's kind of a brief overview. Oh, sorry as well, quality side of stuff. Sitting on the likes of the quality and diversity boards, making sure that all our students are given a fair and equal chance in college and treated to a fair and equal standard as well.
Deadly. And I suppose following on then from that, why do you do what you do? You know, I think that's an extremely important topic that we touch on in each of these sessions. And if you could share maybe one or two accomplishments with us that you'd like to maybe share with students.
Yeah, I guess the main reason why I kind of do what I do, I guess, one of the main reasons why I got involved was just I didn't have the best of experiences when I was in school myself, in secondary school. I'm one of the few people in third level education that never completed a leaving cert. It was kind of failed by the system, you could say. So it's just kind of I want to make sure that doesn't happen to any of our students. I'm making sure that our students don't have to face the same kind of barriers. I guess kind of one of the accomplishment for me, I would say it happened when I was involved in a certain welfare officer's welfare crew, going back a few moons.
I wonder who that would have been.
It was a really cool thing we did. We some of you might remember where the bus air and bus stop was in Blanchardstown Shopping Centre. It's there on that really dodgy slip road. And it was really cool. We held a protest. We lobbied. Now, depending on who you ask, will depend on who got it moved. But I think it's fair to say that the Blanchardstown Students' Union did an awful lot to get it moved to a safer location. And that's probably one of my proudest things that has happened since I've been involved in the union.
I see. And I suppose I think that it's really important then, kind of focusing on the importance of kind of running for leadership roles, then that there are so many barriers for people. And, you know, there's a perception that, you know, kind of the student politic kind of, or any politics even, be it kind of local or otherwise, is kind of, it's a game that matters that kind of to get you elected. You need to be the coolest person in the room with the most kind of brown envelopes to hand out, or, you know, kind of, it's designed for kind of the wider population, not a minority within our larger society. And, that perception is very present. Have you ever encountered any of those barriers? I know you mentioned briefly about the system failing you, and why do you think it's important to run for these leadership roles to tackle those barriers? Because they're not true. They're barriers that need to be overcome.
Yeah, no, I agree. There is a good few barriers actually when you are looking at running for these positions. Well, you face these kind of social barriers. I wouldn't know if they actually do matter too much. Like I know even for my own role, the welfare role, I wouldn't be your stereotypical welfare officer if you were to look around the country at them. And even like some of the things that I'd be very interested in, like the period poverty piece, it wouldn't be something you'd think like I'm going to say a straight white male would be so passionate about. But it's those kind of things that it's like, regardless of what people are going to think about you, when you say that there's an issue that you want to tackle, you really you need to go for it. If you feel deep down that it's something that needs to be changed, then you kind of owe it to yourself and you owe it to the other people out there to try and make sure it does get changed. These leadership positions, it's so important that, like, if you think you're somebody out there that will be able to help and will be able to make students' lives easier when they're in college, when they're on campus, be it on campus or even through the COVID year. It's so important to make sure you jump on it and make sure you run for elections. And if you think you can make a difference, you owe it to everybody to get in there.
100%. We were on a session there, Sue, where and one of our guests, they said, if not you, who? And
yeah,
it's so true. It is so true. Be the person to make the change. I say this in every little session that I'm a big believer of, if you can dream it, you can do it, and if you don't see it, you're destined to be it. So always put your name on, and you know what's the worst that can happen on our session with Senator Annie Hoey? You could wind up to be a senator, and there's definitely worse jobs out there. But then I suppose, can I ask, has there been any work that either kind of you or any of our colleagues in TU Dublin have done to ensure that kind of we really tackle these issues on the ground when it comes to kind of breaking down those barriers, be that through your work as a student leader or otherwise, even to kind of highlight why this means something? Why does it mean something? And what have we done as TU Dublin or previous names done to show that matters?
Yeah, geez, I'm just... my head is genuinely full of so many great examples of work that's been done by, like, our union this year, unions in the past, unions around the country. Down from the simplest things of making sure, like, a bathroom gets changed. So it's not just an accessibility bathroom, it's a proper non-gendered bathroom. It's simple things like that, ensuring that everybody has a safe place to go to on campus. The big one this year has been the work that we've seen done from inside the union on, like, the issues like Corú and that kind of stuff, which is a massive ongoing fight. And it's amazing to see the work that the unions put in on that one to try and make sure our social care students throughout the entire university, and I'm going to be biased here, and especially on the Blanchardstown campus.
I think I would be biased as well.
I wonder. But it's a really important piece, and it's really cool to see the officers working really hard on it. Like, I probably shouldn't be naming all the officers working on it, but no, it is. It's really cool to see the dedication that's gone into it, to making sure that the change happens that will benefit our students and show them that they're supported.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say thanks so much for that. And then I suppose then we've so many other issues facing us, such as the climate crisis. And I say this every session, but I think it's so important to call it that, because it's a crisis. We're standing on the precipice of a catastrophe about to happen. And, you know, as we've seen with the youth vote, even in the last general election period, there is a starvation for a greener tomorrow. And obviously, being a leader yourself, who would have that kind of sustainability element as well within kind of the job, I know we all do, and we all need to take accountability for that. How do you think that our generation of future leaders can make that difference in tackling climate, even as student leaders going for SU election?
I guess one really important thing that, like, if it is something, and you should be looking into it when you are running, and even myself in positions and anybody in a position, like, with that issue of the climate crisis, you said it perfectly. Like, it's something that we used to joke about it when we were in secondary school, how it'll be our great grandchildren's issue, but it's no longer that anymore. It's getting very close to, it could be tomorrow's problem. So a thing, I guess, is evaluate what you can see that's being done wrong on your campus, and think about how can you fix that. Even if you might think it could be too big of a mountain to do it, it won't be. The simplest things can be changed, like ensuring that, let's say locally on Blanchardstown campus, the coffee cups, for example, used in the canteen, why can't they be biodegradable ones? And that's something like you could work to change as a student leader, as a member of the union. You can work to fix that. Like I guess a big thing is kind of look at the STGs and see what you can take from them.
That's really, really important. And I know in other sessions what we would have had was kind of our guest touch on even running on the platform of talking about sustainability and the SDGs as well. That alone, enough conversation gets these things onto agendas. And once they're on agendas, work can stem from that. And once work can stem from that, we can begin to change the world around us. But then I suppose kind of coming on then from that then, just as we're kind of coming to the end of our tea time chats, I suppose, could I ask you to touch on why bother running at all? Like, why be that change maker? Why be the leader within a students' union? Because it's about that time now where that real kind of nasty imposter syndrome starts setting in. You know these doubts of like begin to set in. It was like, oh, I can't do that, or oh, sure, Jesus, I'm up against a surefire candidate who's definitely going to win here, and I can't do that. So, what would you say to that?
To be honest, I'd say don't look at who else is thinking about running. You should, if you think you're the right fit for it, go for it. You deserve to give yourself a chance at it, because it is an honor to do this job, to get to represent the students. And it's also something that, like, if you think you're good for it, there's bound to be at least 10 people out there who think you could be good for it too. And you owe it to yourself as much as you do to the other students out there to really go for it. You could see on the ballot paper that you got somebody who's going to be, who you might think is a surefire, is a straight in. It doesn't matter. You could beat them. It is all down to, like, what will you actually do? How much are you committed to beating that person will show how committed you are to working for the students. That's what I would say.
That's a really, really good idea. And I think as well, kind of another piece of advice that I was listening to over the past couple of weeks was, there's no such thing as, it's really interesting hearing this, because this is a new take on it that I never heard of before, but that there's no such thing as losing an election. You either win your election or you learn from your election. And I think that is that is worth its weight in gold. Piece of advice, because you do. I lost my first election in student union, only by a marginal couple of votes, but it's and what I did, I came back the next year and I learned from that. I saw where I made my mistakes and I said, I'm not going to make them again, and you went for it. But essentially then, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to throw a quick curveball at you, because I love making people think on their feet. So, as somebody who has won a TU Dublin election, a TU Dublin Students' Union election, have you any campaign tips or tricks or kind of advice to give anybody, as they're looking down their campaign trail?
Yeah, that is a curveball. I'm trying to think. I guess. Bit of advice: prepare for everything, which is really hard to do, because I'm going to follow that up by a counter argument of saying you can never prepare for everything. But get yourself ready. Know your arguments for when it comes to hustings. And again, if there's a topic that you want to run on the back of on your manifesto that you're passionate about, get everything you can prepared for it, and then look at how somebody would argue against that, and argue against it. Get practice with somebody at home if you can, and debate against your own argument, and then you'll be prepared as well. I find it really handy to do. That
is possibly one of the best pieces of advice we've heard so far. Well done on being that kind of contender. That is genuinely really, really solid advice. And 100%. You're your own biggest enemy. You're your own biggest critic. So why not fight yourself? But then I suppose, I think that finally brings us to kind of where we begin to wrap up. And I just want to ask, finally, what advice would you give to people who are on the ballot right now, who are waiting for those nominations to close? What would you say to them?
I'd say don't look at it anymore. Once you've submitted all your stuff onto that nomination form, you have everything in. The worst thing you're going to do, it's the same as when you come out of an exam or when you submit an assignment and you see in the group chat all the people who haven't, and there's panicking texts coming in, you begin to second guess yourself. Just don't look into it. Just take the time, relax. You have until, I believe it's the 8th of this month, and that's when nominations close. So just sit back, relax until the 8th. Get your stuff ready to go from then on. Get your posters ready, everything like that. Get that stuff ready to go. Don't look at who else could be running. Don't be panicking. Don't be asking around. Just take this time to relax, because there's going to be enough stress coming after the 8th.
That's so true. And I suppose that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Spud. And that actually brings us to the end of our tea time chat. Spud, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope our students have taken something away from this. I know I certainly have, and I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. And just before we go, do you have any socials that you want to plug or anything like that, or even the Tutsu socials or anything like that? Because they'll all be...
Yeah, well, no, I would ask you guys to make sure you keep your eyes on the Tutsu pages, all of them, the City Campus, Tala, Blanche, and the overall one. If you could take a look at my own Instagram, that'd be nice too. There could be some stuff coming that way. Same on Facebook. Instagram is, I believe it's Spud Fridge, I think. We can talk about the fridge on a different segment. And yeah, make sure you guys stay tuned to all the social medias, and best of luck to anybody who is on the ballot right now or looking at going for the ballot.
A1. Sinead, thank you for everyone for tuning into this little session. I hope you found it interesting. I know, as I said, I did. And with that, we're going to close the session. Thanks, everyone.